Homework. Why are you coming for homework? That sounds so boring, right? Actually, this is quite a hot topic. And before we get too into this, I want to warn you, I'm going to make you do stuff and talk to each other. You might have to put your devices down for a minute and look each other in the eyes and speak to each other, because we're going to be doing a lot of discussion, and this is more of a kind of like a debate and to brainstorm solutions and all these good things, and I need your help. Full disclosure, I do not have the answer to this issue, so I'm coming here so that you can help me figure something out that's better. I would like you to, there's a shortcut URL here to get to my resources, which are the slides, and there's some interactive links in there. So if you go to tinyurl.com/homework debate, you can see them. I also have a survey that I would really like you to take that you can get to from there, and you'll have to click on this link. I also posted it on Twitter, so you can get to it there with the Q17 hashtag. It's a super short survey. And then also we're going to be using today's meet too. But I do want to make the emphasis more on us talking to each other and less on the technology piece. So this is kind of the, whoa, big huge plane coming. So I do want you to keep in mind that this is going to be very heavy discussion based, and I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm losing my voice. So this is a double session on how to do a session when you're losing your voice, or to try to make it look easy, because when you're a teacher too, the whole idea is to get the kids to talk more as well. So I'll have you do all the hard work. All right, so go ahead and take this survey, and you'll have to click on the link. And then while you're doing that, I'll just give you a little bit of background on kind of how I got into this. And as Jason was saying earlier, I am currently a high school TOSA in Silicon Valley, so it's just right in the middle of that whole San Jose area in the suburbs. And we serve only 2 different high schools. It's a small district. And I've also been in the classroom for many years, teacher for almost 20 years. Full confession, I have given homework to my students, even worksheets. I have assigned all of that. And I also, just a little background on my school district, one of the biggest things that we're facing right now and the issues is student stress. And I've talked to other teachers, and I found out that this is also an issue in other districts, and they're having more kids with anxiety disorders, they're in need of counseling, they've got all kinds of different problems going on, and I do know that homework is part of this. Now, I've heard people say that maybe the solution is that we should teach kids to deal with the stress, because the stress will always be there, and it's not something like taking something off their plate, so that's one thought to it. But the fact that it's kind of increasing and spiking up recently is alarming. The other thing, too, that I should mention is that I'm a mother of 2. I have 2 children. I taught 4th grade, for example, for many, many years, and now I have a 4th grader of my own. I found that it's easier to teach 33 of somebody else's kids than one of my own. Is this right? Especially when it's time to do the homework. So my son now is in 4th grade. This is kind of like a karma thing, right? And my daughter's in 7th grade, and she recently turned 13 years old. And then as you can see in this picture, we recently got a little puppy dog, which is a lot of work. So they can now use the excuse that the puppy ate the homework, right? And it's a Great Dane puppy, and this is a big part of our lives right now. Just another little background on our family. We're very kind of outdoorsy. We live actually in the mountains, kind of on the outside of the valley. And we do a lot of kind of hiking. We do some camping stuff, just constantly kind of going out in the nature. And I'm a huge believer of spending our time after school doing the things that we can't do when we're inside of the classroom, so something different. I'm also a huge believer in trying to get the kids to go outside more, or even trying to use technology to get them to go outside more, but that's another session. My daughter is a little bit more, less likely to want to go outside, but now that she's got the dog, she's got to go walk the dog. And then we drag her and my son, and we bring them out to hikes, and then they have a really wonderful time, and they actually really love it. We don't have a ton of organized activities for them. We don't sign them up for a ton of different things. And one of the reasons is it gets super hectic, and both my husband and I work, and then there's no time, for anything else by the time we get done with the homework. My son is in Cub Scouts, so we do Cub Scout kind of events, and that's kind of pretty much it. I also believe that it's great if the kids just have some downtime, and I think they really do need that downtime. And I know as a classroom teacher, it's a lot easier to teach when the kids are not so overtired and overscheduled, so that when they do get to school, they're a little bit more ready to learn. My son is super into nature. He can name all the kinds of trees and plants around, and he's really curious, just as my daughter is. One of the things that he recently did was just a real-life problem, real-world problem that happened when we were at home. Last summer in June, we discovered that we have a rattlesnake issue where we live. So we had some rattlesnakes coming out, and so he was really worried about it because he happened to be the one that found 2 out of 3 of them that showed up within a month. And he almost stepped on a couple of them. So he tried to figure out a solution to the problem, and when he did some research totally on his own, not having to do with homework, he decided that maybe if he built an owl house, he could attract owls, and the owls would compete with a food source, and that would eliminate the mouse or the rattlesnake problem, right? So now we have a little owl house that he built with my husband. I don't know if any owls live there, but I heard one hooting the other day. So these are the kind of things that naturally happen in our own free time, which I think is a good thing. All right, now I'm going to scooch out of this for a minute to see how we're doing on our survey. Hopefully some people took the survey. It looks like this, and it just asks basically, do you give homework in your class? And should teachers even give homework at all? Okay, that's a big question right here. And I'm going to go over to where the answers are, and we got some people that are answering this, and you can keep bringing them in. Oh, that's great. So I'm going to go over to our little summary of responses to see our lovely graph. And we'll take a minute to look at this. So you give homework in class. It looks like almost 70% do, almost 12% don't, and maybe the rest of us are people like me who are TOSAs that don't have to give it to them. Should teachers give homework at all? 18% says yes, 14% says no, and it depends, 67%. So it sounds like most of us really believe that it really depends on the quality of homework or how to make it more meaningful. But it also looks like there's about more than three times as many teachers who give homework than actually believe for sure that they should be giving it, which is kind of like. So the other thing too, just on a little side note with my son, the other thing that we do is that we do spend some time going in the car back and forth, just another one of the whole curiosity thing, which I think it really proves that kids have their natural curiosity. He asks all kinds of questions when we're driving in the car. The other thing too, I'm a big believer in having a family dinner time every night, and we have wonderful discussions at the dinner table, and he asks all kinds of crazy questions, and then I always say, gosh, why don't I write these down? They're fascinating, right? So what I did was I opened up a new Google Doc, and I started writing down his questions and keeping track of them, and they're on my phone, so I can easily add to it wherever we are. And if I'm driving, I wait till I stop, and then I say, what was the question? And then my daughter said, well, can you make one for me too? And so we've kind of combined them together, but just kind of interesting. And I'm not saying this is a solution to homework, but these are some of the questions that he's coming up with naturally, and some of my daughters are weaved in there. I'll give you a minute to read that. The blue ones come from my daughter. So fascinating questions, right? So one of the things that we thought about is that maybe this summer we'll go through and have them write a little book and find out the answers to their questions. All right, so we're going to get to our first question. Why do teachers give homework, right? That's a really good question. And then, why shouldn't teachers give homework? And this is the part where I'm going to make you talk to each other. And what I would like is this side of the room to talk about why teachers give homework, and this side of the room, why teachers shouldn't give homework, okay? Regardless of whether or not you believe in that, okay? And on here, there's actually links to a Google Doc, but you're probably like me, you've probably made that mistake where you have 500 people on one Google Doc. So maybe just pick a couple of people that can kind of sum up some of your questions, and you can put it on there. And then we also can use the Today's Meet. And if you don't want to use that, just go ahead and just talk to each other. The Today's Meet link is homework debate, so todaysmeet.com, homework debate, if you want to add anything to that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get you started. Introduce yourself to the person sitting next to you and brainstorm together. Go. Okay, are we ready to flip-flop? So I'm going to make you flip-flop, if possible, and if you want to keep talking about the other one, you can. But now if you were talking about the pros, I want you to talk about the negatives and vice versa. Okay, keep going. And once again, you're welcome to use the Google Doc, which we're getting some interesting things on there as well. Okay, do the opposite question. Okay, are we ready to move on to the next question? Once again, you could still kind of blend them all together. And I've been reading what's going on in the little chats and was walking around and listening to people too. And one of the things that I was noticing was people were saying that was kind of coming up, that the kids who actually have the time and the resources to do the homework are the ones that don't need it, and the kids that actually need the practice are the ones that don't have any sort of environment where they can do it. And I think one of the biggest arguments about why they should give it is that the kids need the practice of the things that they've learned in class, right? But once again, there's no right or wrong answer. So what intrigued me was so many people said that it depends. So when is homework okay? And I think a lot of it has to do with, making it so that the parameters are justifiable, that it's okay. So the next question that I want everybody to talk about, and you can put it in the Today's Meet, is when is homework okay? Go ahead and talk about that, and if you want to blend the other questions in together, you can too. Go. Okay, are we ready to move on to the next question? All right, the next thing that I want to talk about is homework policy, which I know one of the reasons given for why we have to do homework is because it's board policy. I've given that answer and I've gotten it as a parent too, and when parents complain to you, how do you respond to them? Because I've also gotten complaints on both sides, right? Sometimes it's my kid gets too much homework, and sometimes it's they're not getting enough. And I may say to them, well, I don't want them to have to be up all night or staying past their bedtime and whatnot. And then maybe they say, okay, but can you give me some more worksheets on this or that? Because I think maybe they're afraid that they're spending too much time just playing video games or something. I don't know. So what is your homework policy? I want you to explain this to at least one or two people that are sitting next to you. And then how do you respond to those complaints, whether it's asking for more or asking for less? Go. Great discussions going on. So kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier about making homework at least more meaningful if we are going to give it, because it sounds like a lot of us are still giving it, or we have to give it. If we're going to do it, how can we become more innovative in how we're going to do it? So something beyond the worksheet. What's another way? Have you been successful in what you've done at your school or at your school district or whatnot about how to do it so it's just a little bit different thinking than the same old stuff? So on the bad news side, my son's kind of figured out that I'm not a huge fan of homework, so it makes it a little bit harder for him to want to do it and motivate it. And I was like, ooh, I gotta be quiet about it. But so maybe just thinking outside the box to do something more interesting with it. So maybe have them go outside, or I've said to parents to do something social, outdoor, or creative, and it doesn't have to be structured at all. And then the other thing that I heard was some research somewhere, and I don't even know exactly where it is, and I wish I had the link to it, that the biggest predictor of student success is students who have dinner with their families, that they really need that time to connect with one another and look each other in the eyes. And a lot of that's kind of lost with technology sometimes because we get holed up in our little rooms, and really talk about our days. So in terms of vocabulary and just values or what's going on with their social emotional needs, so many different things happen at the dinner table. So that's kind of one of my short answers that I've given to them. But maybe you have some good ideas too. So maybe on that today's meet too, after you have your discussion, make sure you include it like a list of good ideas, maybe different choices of things that they can do. So go. All right, hopefully you're about ready to move on. Some couple questions about the today's meet. It actually this will stay open for a month, and I believe I can download it as a PDF when I'm done, and then somebody else is going to be putting out another Google Doc. What's the hashtag? We don't know yet. Okay, we'll get back to that. A couple of other little questions, and then one kind of big one that I heard is, what other questions do we need to ask that we haven't asked yet so far? So definitely add that one. And then if you do know of articles or research or anything that you do know of that's either in support or against or something to help us make informed decisions, please add that to the today's meet. But I wanted to make sure we had time for this one because one of the comments that I overheard as I was walking around was, well, there's been a lot of talk about this. And people have been talking about this for a long time, but what are we going to actually do about it? So one night when I was helping my son with homework, which was very tedious and it was tough, and there were tears, and I don't know, it was over fractions or something like that that was too hard. He didn't get it in class, and then it was really hard at home. And I said, well, what can I do to help you? I just want to be able to help you, I said to my son. And he said, make it stop. So, and I said, I can't do that. And then I caught myself saying I can't. And then my idea was, well, maybe if we bring it up in a discussion and a debate like this at the Q conference with lots of other teachers together, maybe we could all put our heads together and think of some solutions. Because one of the reasons why I gave homework when I did was that I worked on a team, a grade level team, and I wanted to be collaborative, and I wanted to kind of do the same thing that everybody else does so I can be a team player. And there's that kind of peer pressure that you want to make sure you're on the same page as everybody else. But if we're all kind of shifting, then maybe it makes it a lot easier to make a change, to do something different or a little bit more innovative than we used to, than just traditional paper and pencil worksheets like we used to. So thinking about what are the things that you are actually going to do to be part of the solution and finding something better, action items, and put that inside of our today's meet. Go. Okay, that was great. I had some great conversations with people, and hopefully you got some great ideas too. And some big takeaway. So your homework is to tweet out your big takeaway and put it to the Q hashtag. And my friend Matt Vaudry is going to post a link to a Google Doc or something inside of the Today's Meet thing. And you're welcome to share this or continue any more ideas that come up later on our Today's Meet as well. So thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the conference.